Hey there, and welcome back, and if you're new, welcome in. So for today's video, I'm pretty much going to give you a few reasons why Kazuha is just a must-pull type unit, which let's just get right into it. So first things first, we'll start off with his weapons. With the weapons, he has, I believe, a total of 5 good options, which is number 1 option, Freedom Sworn, since technically it's his designated weapon and best in slot weapon. But let's say you don't manage to get your hands on this, then you can just go with Iron Sting, which is a craftable weapon which also has EM on it, which is similar to Freedom Sworn, although you lose some attack and you also lose some on EM as well. Another good option is Favonia's Sword, which with this sword, you'll lose some EM, but in turn, you'll be able to, chances are you're going to having your burst ready before it's done from its cooldown, due to the fact that it's capable of generating 6 energy particles, and on top of that, boost his energy recharge, which then allows him to create more of his own energy particles, which is pretty good. Also, there's this one, although this was an event weapon, so chances are if you don't already have it, you won't be able to use it. But even then, you're still able to use the previous 3. However, let's say you don't have a Favonia's weapon, or you don't have the materials to craft the Iron Sting, or you were unfortunate and you weren't able to get Freedom Sword, then you're able to go with the Dark Iron Sword, which honestly, after Dendro characters were introduced, it's pretty much ability, or pretty much this was changed, which honestly was pretty cool. Before, it only do with what? Overlord, Superconduct, Electrocharge, and I believe that was it. But now, due to Dendro being added, they added Quicken, Aggravate, Hyperbloom, and Electrofuse Swirl reactions. And then his attack, or the attack in general, is increased by 20% for 12 seconds, which honestly is pretty good, especially due to the fact that you're just able to come to Liyue, just go to pretty much this little craft station. Normally you teleport here. Instead of crafting it, you just turn to this guy right over here. After interaction with him, he'll then be able to give you the Black Iron Sting, or Black Iron Sword, which honestly is a 3-star weapon, so it costs less materials compared to the 4 stars, let alone the 5 stars. And it's still a pretty good option until you either get Favonia's, Iron Sting, or if you're lucky enough to get Freedom Sword. So that, in my opinion, is pretty cool. Also, for the artifact sets, is probably best in slot artifact set is the VV set, which honestly, for the flower and the plume, you're constantly just going to get attack and HP. And for the subset, you usually want crit rate, elemental mastery, crit damage, and ER, energy recharge, for those 3. However, for the sands, the goblet, and the circlet, you usually want EM as a substats, as the main stat, sorry about that. You usually want EM as the main stats. However, for the substats, you usually just want crit rate, crit damage, energy recharge, and then the 4th could be almost whatever. It doesn't really matter as long as it falls within like those 3. However, in order to get for the sands, I believe it's a 1 in 5 chances. Because what, with the sands, you have elemental mastery, energy recharge, attack, defense, and HP. So that's 5 main stats that are capable of popping up. As for the circlet, you have EM, attack, HP, defense, crit rate, and crit damage. So that's a 1 in 6 chance of getting. And as for goblet, that's a whole different story, where there's the 7 elements, and then you have EM, then you also have attack, HP, and defense. So that's a 1 in 11 chance of possibly getting it, let alone the substats on whether or not they could be good or not. Because as you can see, my substat's not that good. But if yours turns out to be good, make sure you lock it So that's pretty much it for his artifact sets. Although another thing is, due to pretty much the artifact strongbox being introduced, you now don't have to worry about wasting resin on this domain, since you can just waste resin on, or use your resin, I should say. You're able to use your resin to a different domain, let's say for the emblem set, or you have Dendro characters and you want to go for the Dendro set and the Gilded Dream set. You can just farm for those, and then for all the artifact sets that you didn't really care for, you're just able to throw those in the artifact strongbox, and you're then able to go for the VV set, since I believe the maximum it'd be the last one over here. So you just have to click here, and then it says pretty much artifact strongbox iridescent set. Then you're going to be wasting 3 to get 1 piece, which the maximum you're able to sacrifice or exchange immediately, technically. It would be 39, which allows you to get 13. But even then, it saves you technically resin, in a sense. Although it's this, at the very least, you're guaranteed a piece here. But even then, the stats themselves are still completely RNG. Now then, we'll go for the talents next. So for the talents, normal attack, you could ignore completely. It's not very important. However, for his skill, you usually want to level up. Same for his burst. So pretty much for his skill, he's just going to be... You have 2 options, whether you can just... I'll show you a prime example. As he's wet, you can just tap it and then slam down. And that element was now infused due to him being wet at the moment. However, if you were to hold it, the cooldown is longer. However, the AoE, in a sense, it's bigger. Which, honestly, I kind of recommend, since you'll be able to swirl whether it's either he's infused with it or the enemy's infused with it. You usually want to make sure... Let's say if you have a cryo team, you want to make sure that the enemy is infused with cryo, then have Kazuha swirl it, and then you'll be able to switch back to your your cryo DPS, and they'll be able to do more damage due to the fact that in the VV set, for the 2-piece, it gives you 15% annual damage. However, for the 4-piece is where the best part comes, since it increases swirl damage by 60%. And then it decreases opponent's elemental resistance to the element infused in the swirl by 40% for 10 seconds. So let's say, like I mentioned, it was cryo. They're infused with cryo. You then use his skill. They're now have a 40% elemental resistance, or a decrease in element resistance to cryo. You can do the same for pyro. You can do the same for electro. And you could also do the same for hydro, which honestly, it's really good, especially since you get C1. But for now, I'll skip on that. As for his burst, it's somewhat similar to his skill. However, it's going to be lasting longer due to the fact that you're going to be doing like this one domain type thing. So pretty much after his burst, do I even have his burst ready? I do not have his burst ready. That sucks. After using his burst, he's going to have like a little domain circle. It's like as big as Benny's burst, which is constantly going to be swirling. And depending on which element you have, like hydro, pyro, cryo, or electro, is constant. Whatever element is infused at the time will be constantly swirling and doing damage. And on top of that, infusing the enemies with that ability, which you can then, let's say you have Yalan and you have Hydro Swirl, she will now be doing more damage. When it's Pyro, I'm gonna go with Hutao, she'll be doing more damage. Cryo, Ayaka can do more damage. Electro, Raiden can do more damage. So honestly, his burst extremely good. And for the Swordsmanship, whenever his skill makes contact with Hydro or pretty much any of these 4 elements, it will deal an additional 200% damage of the absorbed element which honestly is really good, since obviously you're just on top of that, it's going to be doing the 200%, and on top of that, it's going to be shredding the resistance to that element too, which I just personally just love. As for his second passive, which is Poetics, this is where the EM technically comes in clutch too, on top of him needing it for swirl. So pretty much after triggering a swirl, pretty much his skill or burst, it will grant the party members a 0.4% elemental damage bonus. So pretty much it'll increase their damage for every elemental mastery that he has for 8 seconds. So every point that he has an elemental mastery, he will pretty much allow them to boost their damage. So I'll probably put a number somewhere doing the math, because I don't really want to do it at the moment. But aside from that, due to this passive, the more EM he has, the more damage your team's going to be outputting, which is really good. Now on top of that, with the artifact sets, that's constantly shredding. The resistance just allows him to do even more damage. Now, for the Constellations, he's really good at C0. However, if you end up getting C1, whenever you use his skill, then his burst, his skill is immediately off cooldown, and you're then able to activate his skill again. As for his constellation, or second constellation, whenever you use the burst, Kazuha immediately gets the 200 elemental mastery boost. So right now I have 962. After doing his burst, that 961. That 961 is now boosted to 1161, which in turns then boosts swirl damage, bloom, hyper bloom, overloaded, superconduct, electrocharge, burning, shattered, burgeon, all those, which honestly is pretty good, really good actually. And on top of that, not only does he get the boost for elemental mastery, the character within the field, or little pretty much within his burst, also gets the 200. So let's say we have Raiden, who my Raiden at the time has 21. The moment I do Kazuha's burst, and she's within the burst as his second constellation, then allows Raiden to have 221. Or let's say Ayaka, we have 200, and we'll be able to have 244. We have Hu Tao, which will be able to have 279. And then we have, let's say you have Sino, who technically normally you want to have EM. That 374 will now turn into 574, which honestly is just really good. As for his next 3 constellations, C3 just boosts his skill. His C4 allows him to create more energy particles to then allow him to have his burst more often. As for C5, it increases his burst damage, and C6, it's really good, but you don't really have to get it. But pretty much every elemental mastery point that he has will increase his damage of his normal, charge, or plunge attack, which chances are you're going to be doing a lot more plunge attacks than anything else. And that's increased by 0.2%, which I will probably put a number around here. But aside from that, he's just a really good debuff character in a sense, which is pretty nice. Especially since, like I mentioned, you don't have this sword, you can go with this one. You don't have this one, you can go with this one. If you don't have that one, just talk to the NPC, and then you have this one. And for the VV set, you have this one, and on top of that, you don't really have to farm for it, since you can farm for a different one and just use the Artefacts Strongbox, and you have your sets, and then you can save time and resin too. So honestly, and then there's not really much minuses to him that I know of at the moment. If you know any, let me know. But at the moment, this guy's just phenomenal. But aside from that, that's that's it. So if you ended up enjoying this little rant video, be sure to drop a like and subscribe. Really helps out the channel. Also, for my next video, I'm probably going to be showing the damage output that he's capable of giving for your characters with the whole elemental infusion and everything. So, hope to see you there. And until next time, later, nerds. Take care.